Hopefully, folks will be joining us very shortly. But yes, we're going to continue the conversation about a number of things taking place in the world and all along those lines. And like I said, I hope that folks will be joining me back shortly and all along that kind of way. By the way, it does look like the immigration conversation is continuing as well as Trump has apparently named some new officers into the office and all along those lines in terms of folks that are trying to fight the immigration situation and all along those lines. I know Rodney Scott is one of the people that is getting a confirmation and all along those lines. So we'll see whether he gets the nod or doesn't get the nod in that way. So we're going to find out if that is what happens or it doesn't happen in that particular case. So apparently he has named a number of folks into new jobs and into new positions, and we'll see how this all plays out and all along those lines. So, like I said, a lot's going on as he has named two officials to lead the immigration enforcement drive. And this is according to a report from Axios and all along those lines. So, definitely looks like there are a number of folks that are going to be coming into office, and we'll see how this all plays out. So, President-elect Trump on Thursday night definitely added some other people into his administration or potential people. Nominated former U.S. Border Patrol Chief Rodney Scott to lead the Customs and Border Protection, and he picked Immigration and Customs Enforcement veteran Caleb Vidala to serve as acting ICE director. So these folks look like they're going to be playing a critical role in helping Trump deliver his hardline immigration policies that include a pledge to deport millions of undocumented immigrants. So Rodney served nearly 3 decades in the Border Patrol, building a vast experience and knowledge in law enforcement and border security. Trump said in announcing Scott's nomination as Customs and Border Protection Commissioner on his True Social platform. And Scott served as Border Patrol chief in both the Trump and the Biden administrations before retiring in August of 2021. And he assisted in the delivery of Trump's Remain in Mexico policy, the pandemic era Title 42, and the Safe Third Country deal. And Vidiola is a member of the Senior Executive Service with more than 23 years of federal law enforcement experience, all with immigration and customs enforcement, per his ICE biography. He is currently the assistant director for the Office of Firearms and Tactical Programs. So Trump said on his statement that Caleb's exceptional leadership, extensive experience, and commitment to ICE's mission make him an excellent choice to implement my efforts to enhance the safety and security of American communities who have been victimized by illegal alien crime. So definitely that's what's going on in that space and along those lines. So we'll see what folks have to say about this whole conversation around immigration and these folks that'll be leading the immigration charge and all along those lines. So definitely looks like a lot of folks will be playing into this immigration conversation, and we'll be quite interested to see what folks have to say about it and what their situations will be in that regard. So I'll bring Sashi in and bring Rick back in as well, and also bring in others that have joined us, including Kim Calhoun and everything like that. But definitely things are going well. We've got also Jacoby with us as well. So yeah, we had a little glitch there. I don't know what happened, Kim, but somebody hit a wrong button and everything like that, because it literally knocked us off, and that's why we're starting the show in a second phase and everything like that. So that was
Well,
interesting.
my hands have been full, so I didn't touch any buttons.
It wasn't you. I
My
think it
hands
was
are
you.
full. So what happened?
We were in the middle of doing the news and the news discussion, and then I was in the middle of talking about some news briefs that I was finding, and then Rick and Jacoby said, "Hey, you're off the air." So that's what happened and everything like that. So now we're back on, and we'll see what's going on. But I'm thinking that one of our other administrators might have hit a button that they didn't need to hit, and everything like that. But that's what goes on in live television sometimes, and all along those lines. We got Shaquille here from Australia as well.
Your
Right?
YouTube link is still
The
down.
joys of life and not being able to control everything in life. And I think that's what makes this a lot of fun sometimes, right?
Your
Yeah,
We
you-
just have no idea.
your YouTube link is still down. By the way, that's still not broadcasting there.
okay, well, let's see if I can make that go up. But it's saying it's going on Pod TV, but we'll double check. Sometimes that has a delay and everything, but it
I'll
does say
take
that
a
we're all
look. You
straight.
get the news going. I'll
Okay.
check the technology. You get the news going.
Well, you do that and everything. One of the things I was talking about before we got on, we were talking about the
Uh,
school
it's on now.
shooting. Okay, we were talking about the
It's
school
on now.
and everything. One of the things we were talking about the
It's
school
up.
shooting.
It's
Yeah, it's
up.
up. He said that. He said that. He said it's up now. It might have been a delay and everything. What's our take on the new immigration leadership? We've got an ICE leader and we've got other leaders as well. So it looks like we've got some policy going on, and it definitely folks are, I guess, concerned about the deportation, or some folks are wondering how it'll be implemented. But it looks like there are some people that are being hired to do the implementation. So that's where I was going to go with the conversation. I know we were talking earlier about the shooting, which is a rare shooting at a Christian school and everything, because that was even one of the things that they said. There's not many shootings around the world at Christian institutions. So.
How many people were killed?
I think it was 2, but it was not like I don't think it was a mass amount. Yeah. But any amount is too many, particularly of young people. Particularly of young people, in my mind, and everything. But that's just my thoughts on that and everything. But what is our thoughts around border security and that issue and everything along those lines? So maybe we'll go with that conversation. And like I said, Sasha will be joining us, and I know at the top of the hour we'll have Ukraine, Russia, and China. But what is our feelings about the need for implementing border policies, and are there going to be some improvements in border policy?
Well, there won't be any legislation passed in the near future because the House is tied, almost equally divided between Republicans and Democrats. Now, Democrats got beaten up over immigration. They lost the election. That was one of the 2 biggest issues. So maybe Democrats will, play ball and sign on to a bipartisan border bill, but I'm not super optimistic, since the last time we passed a bipartisan bill was 1983 under Reagan, 41 years ago.
Yeah. What's your take on that, Shaquille, and everything? Because I know immigration is not strictly a United States issue, because I know that there have been issues around immigration in places like London and places, I imagine, like Australia, where you are based at now and everything, and just around the world, immigration seems to be a major issue.
I'm not based in Australia. You guys keep saying that. I'm not based here. I don't live here. Look, it is an issue around the world. Australia has had some criticism for the way that we process people, but if they come here illegally, they're processed offshore. The main place where we detain people is in Nauru. But we have also seen a dramatic decrease in the level of encounters from people that are trying to arrive on unauthorized boats. So, arguably that's a good thing. We've seen, if you look back 15, 20 years ago, we actually saw people that were traveling by boats that were not safe, and people would die as a result. The Labor Party tried to loosen the rules a little bit, and that didn't result very well. And so they ended up going back to the former rules that were put in there by the centre-right political party of Australia. So, look, I tend to think that the United States, one, that they could potentially have offshore processing in Mexico or another country. 2, I think that they need to work out a way to allow immigrants that want to come to the United States to have a pathway to be able to do that. But I do think that they need to stem the passage of people that are basically jumping the queue and breaking the law to get in. And I think that leaves the United States with having to make what can be quite tough decisions, which is, what do you do with somebody who's come in illegally, they've had a child there, and you don't want to break up the family. And by not breaking up the family, do you incentivize people to do exactly that, to come over, have a kid, and then rely on, the kindness of the American people? That's a decision for American people to make, and I think that people have made that decision quite loudly and clearly.
So I have a question for Sasha and for Shaq, who know economics better than I do. So in the past 8 years, we've had 2 different immigration policies. We've had Trump's and we've had Biden's. did those policies have any significant impact on the overall economy of the United States?
Do you want to go first, Sasha, and then I'll come in?
Sure, I can go first. My answer will be very short. I don't think that the impact on economy could be done in a very short period of time, even if it's 4 years or even 8 years. It takes much more time to understand the impact of economy. The overall, it's not a new issue. Immigration is as old as 100 years probably, and it's not just U.S. Phenomena. It's Canada. It's most European countries. So I really don't understand why it is such a big issue. The economy is definitely positive for business cycles, taking a longer time approach. And the only thing is, of course, it has to be done in the right way to minimize the impact of illegal immigration. This is really unfair, and I don't support it. Although if people already made it all the way and they naturalized and they have jobs and maybe businesses and learn the language or so, there must be some kind of a way to legalize them. Straightforward, easy to understand, but right now it's all in disarray. Now, interestingly enough, I would like to mention in Europe, immigration is not such a big deal as it is in the United States. In Europe, the biggest threat is infiltration of European countries by Russian-based operatives who are doing sabotage, who are doing all kind of horrible things. For example, like cutting off the telegraph and internet cables on the Baltic Sea, and many others are being prepared, and we even don't know how many acts of terrorism were in fact discarded. And right now, it's just a new document has been signed by all intelligence services of leading European countries. I'm not sure that US is included in that. Probably not at this time, because it remains to be seen who will be appointed. If it's Tulsi Gabbard, you might as well invite KGB people in Pentagon and just lay all documents in front of them and do it this way. So we'll see. We'll see how it will develop.
Shaquille,
Look, obviously the threat that Russia poses to Europe can't be understated, but I don't think that means that immigration is not an issue. I think that you're seeing the majority of countries in Europe complaining about the mass migration into the continent. And you're also seeing complaints about this in the UK. So this has led to protests, it's led to riots, it's led to countries becoming quite right-wing that you wouldn't expect, like Sweden, who've had enough of the increase in crime rates. I mean, Sweden's now one of the most dangerous places in Europe based on the escalating crime rates. So I'd say that it is significant. As far as economic effects, I think that you can't. I think this is a poor way of trying to fix the economy. The issue, the reasons being given to me sound like people grasping at straws, trying to find justifications for what is a broken immigration policy and a broken immigration system. The reasons being given is, one, that food production and other types of jobs are only being done by illegal immigrants. So therefore, by curbing illegal immigrants, that will cause prices to go higher. Well, that shouldn't be a policy that you're going to allow people to illegally come into the country because they can be exploited. That sounds like a terrible policy. Secondly, they talk about young people not having kids at anywhere near replacement levels. That is also a significant problem, and across the West that does need to be addressed. I don't think that you address it very well by simply throwing your hands up in the air and saying, well, we're not going to do anything to try to improve the situation and to encourage young people to, get married and have children. If you want the traditional family, which much of society doesn't want, But, we're not going to do anything to help them. We're not going to help them have the stability of having a home and being able to afford kids, etc. What we're going to do instead is we're just going to keep bringing in a limitless procession of new people into the country. That's not a way to build economy. It puts enormous pressure on social services. It puts upward pressure on housing. So the overall economy may look like it's doing quite well from a macro level, but individual people and individual families can find themselves struggling, and they're going to look for reasons as to why they're struggling, and it's going to be quite natural and normal for them to look around them and say immigration must be the cause of it. And I would say that immigration probably is a cause, but not the sole cause, or a contributing factor.
Yeah, Jacoby, you had some statistics that you were putting in the chat and everything. I don't know if you want to clarify or talk about those. And we also had some questions from Lee Newton Rhodes, who's not been on lately and everything, but he was asking whether immigration laws passed by Congress are irrelevant. And to Shaq, he said every criminal going to jail is breaking up a family. And he said, Sasha, no problem in Europe, no effect on crime, and all along those lines and everything. And you got that voice thing going on again.
I got to say that the percentage of immigrants in Europe is about like 10% of a lot of European countries are undocumented immigrants versus about 3%, 4% in the U.S. So yeah, Europe has a bigger issue with it.
Yes, immigration is an issue. Yes, we need to work on immigration laws. Rick is spot on. Again, immigration laws have not changed since Reagan. We need legislation around immigration. We do need to fix the border and do a bunch of stuff. But again, Rick is right. It's not going to change because we're sitting in a very partisan environment in a split government. And the only immigration suggestion by the individual coming into office is mass deportation, which harms the actual government or harms the actual economy in multiple ways. The question that Rick asked was the economic impact. That is there. I mean, the documentation is there. Do immigrants contribute to the U.S. economy and growth? Yes. According to an American Immigration Council analysis of U.S. Census Bureau data, immigrants, almost 48 million of whom now live in the United States, among the overall population of roughly 335 million people, generate some 1.6 trillion in economic activity in 2022, and it's only gone up. So again, yes, they do contribute to the economy. We do have the data that shows how much they do contribute to the economy. Things still need to be fixed because there are problems that we need to take care of. You cannot have just a free flow. We have to stop the demonization and they come in and take your jobs and they're bringing crime idea, because that's only demonizing people and creating hostility amongst others within society and causes a lot of problems because we've already looked at the crime rates. We can point out the crime rates. Native-born Americans continue to commit more crime than actual foreign immigrants or undocumented workers. So the idea and the notion around that we need to get rid of, but we need more people like Nick, lawyers. We need more judges. We need to process these people. We need to watch the actually ports of entry is where most drugs and everything else are coming through. Better technologies there. There's just a lot more stuff that we need to do, but we're not going to do it.
I just saw.
I'm glad that you're showing your true colours as a progressive there, Jacoby. That what America needs is more lawyers and more government. That's what a great plan that is. I have to say respectfully, my friend, that I highly disagree with you.
Now, say a solution instead of something that's an add-on.
I did say a solution, and you know what, Jacoby, if you can have little jokes at me, I think I can have them back.
Yeah, say a solution.
All right. Now back to the numbers that you.
A shirt that was bought in China, but hey, we can make jokes.
Right, so back to the numbers that you were giving, you said that there's close to 50 million people. I'm rounding up. I know you said 48 million that are producing $1.6 trillion in economic activity. Firstly, if 1.6 trillion is what they're producing, that number is much lower than the rest of the population. Secondly, that number is incorporating all immigrants, including those immigrants that have come there legally, right? It's not just the illegal immigrants that have come to the country.
I get that. I mean, you're arguing something that nobody argued.
And you've made I think it was Rick that made the point that's 3% of the population of the United States, but yet the estimates range that there's 11 or 12 million that have come in that are documented encounters, and they estimate that there could be up to 30 million people in the United States, up to 20 of which came in since the Biden administration's been around, but up to 30 million people, which gets you close to a 10% of the population level.
Numbers.
Can I finish a sentence? It's clearly problematic. It's clearly a problematic thing. And when you guys sit there,
my apologies. Go ahead. I'll answer afterwards.
And when you guys sit there and say things like "stop the demonization," as if somehow it's only the people who you don't agree with that are the ones that are demonizing. You know what? If you want to talk about demonization, I think you can look at the Democrats and other centre-left political parties around the world to learn what demonizing people is all about.
Okay,
so I want to let me bring up a couple semi-new things. One is in the news today is a new form of fentanyl, carfentanil, that's 100 times more powerful, and 1% of this stuff will you can dose anyway. It's 10,000 times more powerful than heroin. So I don't know how you stop the smuggling of that stuff if it's only a package is only 1% as big or as a package of fentanyl, which is anyway. This seems like a big new problem with smuggling. Another thing is there wasn't a lot of wall talk in this campaign. I don't know with Trump in office again whether we're going to have a lot of wall talk, but what people don't know about the southern border is 70% of the southern border is the Rio Grande River. And it's tough to figure out a system of, walling up the river, because that most of the land along the river on both sides is owned by farmers and ranchers.
And Rick, what you're saying is
back in his first presidency,
real quick, because I just wanted to get this in real quick. You point out something. The wall talk died down because in the border bill itself, there was actually funding to build more wall. So that began to die down, and that began to be less of a talking point. And also, you're right. Building a wall across the whole southern border logistically is going to be tough because you've got the rivers, you've got all the terrain that you have to deal with. You also have eminent domain that you're going to have to pull from different individuals. There's just a lot of problems with trying to build a full wall across the whole border. It was just a real talking point to start with in the first point, and it's an easy sell. And also, just to point out the numbers, undocumented immigrants spending power totaled more than $254 billion in 2022. Undocumented household had a combined income of $330 billion, paying nearly $76 billion in taxes. So again, that's just undocumented. That is taking out. So we have the data again of that. I just didn't go fully into all that data. But again, going back to the fixes for immigration, yes, truthfully, it goes back to we definitely need more resources at the border. And that includes, yes, lawyers, judges. They have to process these people. Arguing that we don't need that stuff is crazy because we have to be able to get. That's the reason a lot of people end up staying in line. That's the reason those visas run out, is because these individuals can't get court dates, can't get their stuff looked at. So if we had more opportunity for them to do that, and yeah, AI, we've been preaching about that. AI could be a solution there in the legal field, but that has to happen. That is part of the fix. That's not the whole fix by far. No, that's just part of it. And fentanyl, just like Rick is talking about, technology. We need better technology. We need to work on that stuff. And until we do, we're still going to always have problems.
Jato, I have a
So,
question. There was a point to discuss all that when American people, they choose Donald Trump as their president by majority, by House and Senate and everything else. He has very capable staff around him, starting from J.D. Vance and Elon Musk and his son, Junior, and several other very capable people. So I would expect them to start as soon as they will be in the office, doing whatever they promised to do and deliver whatever they promised to deliver. If they need to build the wall, let them build the wall, 2 walls, 5 walls if they need. It's their prerogative. It's why they are going to be in the office from January 21st next year. Now, just let them do whatever they choose to do. They have all the powers. They've been elected. And I don't think they need your, mine, or anybody else's advice what and how and when to do. Let them do it. And then 4 years later, you will see what they delivered, what they didn't deliver, and so on, and you will act accordingly.
Sasha, you're right. I
So-
mean,
so in relation to-
you're right.
So in relation to a couple of points that were made there, in the first place, if memory serves me correctly, during Trump's first presidency, the total amount that he wanted to spend building that wall was $5 billion. I would argue, and I think the point's not lost on many Americans who have talked about this on right-leaning media, that the cost of the immigration that has happened in the last 3.5 years has been many multiples of the amount of money that it would have cost to build the wall. And that there was a couple of $1 billion wasted, I believe, by Joe Biden when he stopped building the wall or construction of the wall. Secondly, Jatova, you made comment about the 276 million or whatever it was that you said that was earned by undocumented immigrants. Now, firstly, I think that actually makes the numbers sound worse based on what I said previously, because if you're going with a number of 20 million or even 30 million, then 276 billion is not a huge contribution. And I would argue once again that admitting people lawfully would actually result in a higher contribution to the US economy. But secondly, how exactly are they getting those figures? If they don't know where the undocumented immigrants are, how are they going about surveying people to find out what their economic contribution is? So, I get very skeptical when I hear statistics like this, because a lot of the time it's statistics made based on assumptions, and a lot of those assumptions can be poorly founded.
So just to point out, as you started and ended shows how partisan and how twisting of the numbers you're doing. One, Trump didn't want to spend any on the wall. Why? Because Mexico was supposed to pay for it. So that's nothing. So you saying, oh, well, he only wanted to spend $5 is a complete lie. He sold on 2016, the campaign, he was going to build a wall and Mexico was going to pay for it. So therefore, he was going to spend nothing. So that was a complete lie. So therefore, when you started your comment, that's not what he said that he was going to spend. He said he was going to spend nothing. Also, in terms of the 11 million that are here, 254 billion is still adding to our economy. That is, you're saying that, oh, well, it's just a drop. It's nothing.
But those 11 million people that are here
adding to our economy. That's more than we didn't. That's more than just coming in for free as being sold, that they aren't adding. So again, this goes to the actual narrative and the demonization that I was speaking about. We should not be narrating and saying that they don't do or they create more problems. No, they're actually adding to the economy. They are actually doing stuff that other Americans will not do. They are actually at which, I wish they would get paid more for. And yes, I agree with you when you talk about, oh, well, it should be considered to be slave labor. Yes, I agree with that. They're being paid.
I didn't say that.
So you've argued that before. So when these businesses take advantage of these individuals, again, the businesses should be held accountable just as much as we want to hold the undocumented workers accountable. So that goes into the account of dealing with, we need more, as Rick points out, legislation. We need more funds for judges, lawyers, all these individuals.
So here's the issue that I have with what
I'm
you're saying.
curious too, when I'm looking at some of the news, and not to interrupt you, but I haven't had a chance to say anything. And I've been popping in and out, but the internet's weird out here today. But, I've been looking at the new Mexico president's point of view on things, and her and Trump have already talked on the phone. I think that, they'll come to some negotiations. The wall never got anywhere. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. She's very much opposed to a wall. I mean, I just visited a place that had a wall as a piece of art. One of the walls that were used years ago somewhere else, and they're taken apart, and so that's what happens to walls. And I think the best thing to do is bridge the gap, bridge the misunderstandings, understand the volume that is really coming in. Shaq, you even mentioned it before. Of course, this is something I have mentioned for several months. How do we really know? Nobody's counted. I mean, who stood there with a little ticker and counted? They have surveillance cameras. Majority of them apparently don't work. I blame the organization that has those cameras. You know what? Stop writing memos and just fix the damn thing. Stop whining and complaining and fix them. When my cameras don't work at home, if something happens, it's my fault. I don't sit there and write a memo to the company that owns the cameras. I fix them. So I think what we need to do is put more liability on the people who work at the border and tell them, get off your butt and do your job. Fix those cameras. Those cameras could have given us a lot of data and a lot of information, and that's what needs to happen. So I just think that we're not working with the proper data. We haven't been. I have said this numerous times for many years now. Who knows? Everybody goes, 10 million crossed. You don't know. You're just repeating an echo chamber. Oh, we have to close the borders. You know what? Many of the people crossing drown. Many of the people crossing die. Does anyone do those numbers? There is a high death rate of crossing. Now, people think that it's worth the risk, but those are the data that we really need to be taking a look at and find out what's really going on. You just don't throw people out there to go work and do something. And I think you give people incentive to come forward to let you know that they're undocumented, and you put them to work and let them work for what they're here for. Many of them, Jatovia, you said this too, many of them are working for people. A lot of it is as illegal as you get. And I have been saying this for 15 years because I have seen them on the farms. I have seen them on the ranches where they come and they just work and nobody ever documents it because they're getting them for very cheap labor. Who do you blame there? Do you blame the immigrant or do you blame the employer? And personally, I think I would blame the employer because they know better. So that's where I would go with that, is start putting more liability and accountability on the employers and on the people at the border for not doing their job.
So a couple of things, Jatovia, you said 11 million people. That's the number that the government has said are actually there, and they are technically documented. They may not end up with permanent residency, but they are at the moment documented pending their cases being heard. The estimates of the people that got away or whatever is another 10 to 20 million. So that's where those numbers are coming from, and they're estimates. So nobody knows because, as Kimberly said, well, they're not counting them if they're, if they just manage to sneak into the country.
So how did you come up with the, real quick, just to interject, you said,
do you know how they've been counted? Does anyone know? So this is what they do. They use by encounters. Okay, how many times they encounter somebody who's undocumented. And a lot of times they encounter the same person 4 or 5 times. So that person's counted 4 or 5 times. They don't sit there and go, oh, we got them 4 or 5 times, so they're counted once. That's not how that works. And that's the other thing that needs to change, is how it's counted. And that's how they've been counting it for many years. Go ahead.
And so, Shaq, I was just trying to get a little bit of clarity on what you're saying, because you said my number of 11 million, which, you know, that's what they're going by government wise, is incorrect. But because we don't actually know. But there's 20 million. But how can we not know if we say that? How can you say that there's 20 million if you're saying that you don't know? I mean, that's where my confusion is. Right now, we have a number of 11 million, basically between 11 and 15, or whatever you want to say. 11 million. They've settled on 11. I'm going with 11. But you're saying no, it's upwards of 20. But you're also saying you don't know. So that's where my confusion is. Can you clarify how you know it's 20 million or 30 million or whatever number you come up with, but you're saying that we don't know?
I don't know how relevant that is to the point that I wanted to make, but for the sake of answering your question, 11 million is the number that the government agrees has come in, that they've documented at the border, they've let in. And I said there are estimates. By definition, an estimate means that they don't know, which is why that number varies between 20 million and 30 million, because they don't know. Okay.
But where does the
Well, and they don't know, like I said, because of the way they counted. They counted based on encounters. And that you can't do it that way. That is not a proper way to count the volume of people. So you're right. They don't know exactly. They have no idea. It's not about who crossed over anymore. Nobody knows that count.
And
we had surveillance cameras.
Am I going to be allowed to make the point that I wanted to make, or are we just going to keep on it?
No.
I didn't make it at all. I didn't make it at all. I've been cut off several times.
We have a time clock, and I'm sorry. We have to go. We'll see you Monday. Yes, life. I know it's a beautiful day. Everyone take care and be careful this weekend. It's going to be cold out there.
Everybody.
And
enjoy the weekend, everybody.
Take care, everyone.